Foreword by David Goggins.
10 years ago, you would have never seen my ass writing a foreword for Dan Bilzerian. I would have said I had absolutely nothing in common with the guy. The guy's family was loaded. I grew up in poverty. He gambles, I don't. He takes drugs, I don't. He's had sex with thousands of women. I don't even have morning wood because I work out so much. I was guilty of judging someone like Dan. I saw his wealth as privilege, an unfair advantage and head start in life. The playing field was not level, and odds were all stacked in his favor, in my jaded eyes. My black ass had been judged my entire life, and here I was, doing the exact same thing. My biggest problem was that I always used to see life through a very small scope, therefore my field of vision was very narrow. I didn't have the ability to see beyond my own insecurities and fucked up life. I saw a person like Dan and said, me and this motherfucker have nothing in common. It wasn't until I started gaining perspective that I learned no one is exempt from life fucking you up. Unless you have been them or been there, the appropriate thing to do is shut the fuck up and go on your way. Where the rubber meets the road, I am truly no different than Dan. The biggest thing I found that we have most in common is the uncommon desire to change the very beings we were in our young lives. Regardless of how different our circumstances were, no matter how much he had and I didn't have, we both ended up in the same exact spot. We both felt inadequate. Like most of us, the crux of all of our problems in life came from the very things we didn't have. For me, I wasn't a tough kid, and I wanted to be tough. So my only goal in life was to be the hardest man that has ever lived. In Dan's case, he sought approval and affection from his father. He thought he was unattractive and unappealing to women. All of these things and more drove Dan to master what he calls the setup. Neither of us should have ended up where we did. In my high school yearbook, you never would have seen my picture with the description, most likely to become a Navy SEAL and New York Times best-selling author. More likely, it would have said, most likely to be repeating senior year. For Dan, no one would have ever predicted that by his mid-30s, he would become the modern-day Hugh Hefner on steroids, literally and figuratively. That is the beauty and power of the mind. There is great power in your insecurities, but you must have the courage to examine them in order to find it. You have to look at yourself in the mirror and accept what you see and know to be true, internal and external, and still be willing to put yourself out there and go for it. You have to not give a fuck about your chances of success, falling flat on your face, or what others may think or say. To look in that mirror and not see exactly what you want to see, but still have the confidence to bet on yourself. For both Dan and I, our insecurities were the fuel for the drive. Our drive took us down different paths, but we both ended up as extreme outliers. As fucked up as it may be to some, Dan Bilzerian had a dream to fuck as many hot women as he could and become rich as shit and own the best of everything. Cars, toys, houses, planes, and bongs, or whatever those things from which shit is smoked are called. Like it or not, whatever game the motherfucker was playing, he won. The setup has made Dan one of the world's biggest social media celebrities. There are tens of millions of guys all over the world living vicariously through Dan's shenanigans on social media. And on top of that, there are millions more silently following Dan while talking shit about him. My setup was to take the souls of all those that doubted, made fun, and bullied me, as well as those that called me the N-word, and ultimately own real estate in their minds. One thing I respect most about people is their ability to be vulnerable and unapologetic about who they are. This motherfucker is not asking you to like him. He's not asking you to follow him on Instagram or other social media platforms. Look at how the motherfucker dresses. He wears the same shit every fucking day. He truly has gotten to a place in his life where he does not give a fuck what people think about him. He welcomes the criticism. If more people in this world could get to that place, more people could just be who they truly are and want to be. Whether people accept them or not, it doesn't matter. They accept themselves. The cold, hard truth is that we are all born to die. No one can debate that reality. In that time frame, you better go after whatever it is that you are seeking to find with all of the ability that you have to find it. For Dan, that was perfecting the setup. Ultimately, it is your life to live and no one else's. Not everyone is going to approve of what you do with and in your life, and that's okay. If you choose to be a puppet and allow those around you to control the strings, you will be that gray man. Some of us are fine with being that gray man and blending in with the crowd. In my opinion, there are enough average motherfuckers in this world already. What makes this world unique are the people who are willing to go against the grain and say the things that no one else is willing to say. But if you want to make a statement with your life, you will need to master your own personal setup. David Goggins, retired Navy SEAL, New York Times best-selling author, endurance athlete.